Mike joining us here on the Team 1040. Good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, doing all right. Looking forward to the weekend here. Tell me a little bit about your day so far. Are you happy with what you guys were able to achieve?
Yeah, we were happy. We had a couple of targets in some depth areas that we wanted to try and shore up as best we can. Running our own farm team now gives us an opportunity to put players down there that we like, that some of them we want to give a chance to, and others that are young players. So it created a new level of sort of getting things done for us, but feel pretty good about it.
Mike, when you look at some of the folly this afternoon, you have to be almost glad that you didn't have a lot of money to spend. I mean, your team's in pretty good shape. I've never seen so many bizarre contracts in one day, I don't think ever.
Well, it's funny, Tony, you were saying that because we were just talking about that ourselves, and we were determined to try and have our core guys signed going through the end of the last CBA. There are lessons in the past with teams that didn't have players signed, and suddenly you get into a marketplace like this, and the money dries up in a real hurry. And you see a lot of term on contracts and a lot of dollars, and next year we'll be in a position to be back in the free agent market to look at other players. But I was surprised by some of the stuff that happened today.
When you look at the Western Conference, do you see any team that made great strides vis-a-vis your team today? And I can't see anyone. Maybe Edmonton helped themselves marginally, but I don't think you lost any ground in the conference today. Or do you see it differently?
Well, I think our biggest change was changing the head coach of this team, and in doing that, we felt that it was going to be a significant alteration of where we were going and what had happened in the past. And to do that is probably the biggest change you can make. We also, we've been in a situation where we haven't gotten young players into the lineup, even though we have some good young players, and we wanted to start turning that over. And one of the reasons that John Tortorella was the best choice for us was because he played young players in New York, and we want some opportunities on this roster for young guys. We've got 4 young centers that we want to have a spot for those guys to compete for, and we've got some young defensemen we want a spot for those guys to compete for. And if you keep signing players for 4 and 5 years that are taking up those 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th defense spots, you don't have space for a young guy, and we wanted to create some space.
As you know, we get all our Canuck news from RDS, and we are told that Louis is considering his options. I was wondering if you could review with us what those options are, and is there any indication that Roberto is going to refuse to report?
I don't have any indication that he is going to. I'm going to go down and meet him as soon as we get sort of settled down here after this. And, his options are, I guess, to not play hockey or come back to us. And, it's been obviously it's been a difficult situation with a lot of things being reported that are completely inaccurate throughout the whole time here. And, I'm not in the business of looking back and throwing people under the bus and talking about things that may have been or could have been different, but the decision was made that he was going to be our guy. We made a deal at the draft that got us certainty with a really good young player, we believe. We've drafted once in the top 10 since I've been here, the 10th pick, and other years we've always drafted 24 or beyond. And we feel we got some good players in those selections, but to move up and get what we think is a really top-end young center iceman is something we just couldn't do. So, the decision was made. We acted upon it and moved on.
Mike, we had a chance to visit with Brad Richardson about half an hour ago. Sounded pretty excited, as you can imagine. New team for him on Free Agency Day. What was it about Brad Richardson? And he talked a little bit about meeting with you guys and, talked about plugged into that third-line center role. Do you see him as a guy that can score at the NHL level?
Well, he scored 16 goals in the past, and, he's a guy that we've looked at for a while because he's versatile. He can move up and down the lineup. He can kill penalties. Whatever position he earns here, we know we're going to get a professional who has energy, has speed, and has won a Stanley Cup. So, to get a player like him with the constraints that we were facing, we feel really good about it because he's the guy we targeted and we managed to get him.
Yannick Weber has a good offensive ability, massive shot. Do you see him getting any power play time at all when he's in the lineup?
Absolutely. Absolutely we do. And, we lost a right-handed shot in Sammy Salo on our power play, and we think that Yannick we know he can really shoot the puck. He's a fast, smart player, can run a power play. And, again, we were looking for very specific things this year in free agency. We've got our core guys signed up. We've got wingers. We've got center icemen. We've got our defense, and we've got a goalie. And we were looking for specific things that we felt could help us right now and support that group.
I know, there are cap constraints, obviously, but do you anticipate being active through the weekend here at some point?
I'm not sure. There's a couple other things that we're working on that may or may not happen. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to take place. It was a lot of fun to sit back today and not be anxious about trying to get guys. Like in the past, we've signed Jason Garrison and Dan Hamuse and Manny and among others. And, to get players to come and play here in Vancouver and have it as an attractive place gave us a little bit of a leg up on some teams. But to sit back and watch it today, you could see that money ruled and a lot of players got a lot of money and a lot of term.
What can you tell us and tell your fans about negotiations with Chris Tanev? Are you making progress there?
Yeah, we had a good conversation the other day, and I think we all need to get through this little bit here and then get back at it.
And what do you expect from the prospects camp? So much has been made here since you were able to draft Bo Horvat, the names Brendan Gaunce and Kellen Lane and some of the other guys. There's some excitement around this organization as far as your prospects are concerned. How competitive do you expect? I know it's a prospects camp, but as management, how competitive do you expect this to be?
We look at this camp more as a teaching tool to teach young players about the commitment levels and the fitness levels that are going to be required to play here. So, it isn't as competitive in the sense that we're just dropping a puck and having guys scrimmage and fight it out. There's a big teaching component. There's a big educational component off the ice about living habits, nutrition, all sorts of things, financial investment, like you name it. We're trying to cover a lot of bases to make sure that these guys can be as focused and as well prepared as they can be when the main camp begins. And there will be some scrimmaging, there will be some battle drills, but maybe not as much as other teams do.
I'm good, other than just to ask about the long season. Like if you're going to have a Gaunce or a Horvat in your lineup, by the time the playoffs start, and these guys have been through all these endless camps the young guys get to, you get a 19, 20-year-old in your, by the time the playoffs roll around, they've played about 800 years of hockey. They must get pretty tired at that stage, right? You got to be careful with one or two of the guys that makes your team that they don't get too dragged through the hedge, right?
Yeah, no, we spend a lot of time on fatigue management because of the geography, and they'll have the benefit of all that, and you have to watch them, and you have to be careful and make sure that they have the energy and can bring it every night, and sometimes they'll need a night off. But we try and do things thoughtfully and with a plan, and we're going to watch these kids this week. We're going to see how they do. I'm excited about this week coming up. It's a chance to suddenly see a lot of good players out on the ice that are young players and are enthusiastic, and I think it's going to be a good camp.
Well, I think you did well to stay out of the traffic, the heavy traffic today. I honestly think there's going to be a lot of blunders come from this particular day. So,
hey, Mike, my last question to you is, do you guys anticipate bringing in an experienced goaltender, a guy that's played in the National Hockey League at some point to bridge the gap with I know you've got the youngsters, but they don't have NHL games on their resume. Is that something you're considering?
Not at this point. No, Eddie Lack we felt was ready to be a backup last year before he got injured. He's very highly thought of and has done his time in the American Hockey League. And Joaquin is, again, a guy who's played in the Swedish Elite League the last 3 years. He's got really good experience. And, at this point, we're not looking at that route. But, come October, if we had another injury or something, there's always goaltenders around that can be backup goalies in the league. And
yeah, if you did bring in an experienced guy, it would mean one of your two youngsters would have to sit in Utica, and that isn't advantageous, is it? So
No. And like I said, we felt that Eddie Lack was ready to be a backup last year, and he was just really getting more seasoning as opposed to anything else. And if we had done a trade last year, he would have been our backup. So we're pretty confident that he's going to be ready to go.
All right, good stuff, Mike. Appreciate it. Thanks for doing this.
Okay, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
And Mike Gillis of the Vancouver Canucks, brought to you by Absolute Home from Martin Insurance. Get your online quote estimate in just 60 seconds at mardoninsurance.ca. Martin Insurance, professional broker since 1928, and now a preferred partner of the Vancouver Canucks.
Right away, that's the start of the youth movement. No veteran goalie coming in. And from an organizational standpoint, I have to agree with that decision. I mean, Eriksson obviously has got really good credentials. He's played with men. He's had a great year with men in a very tough league on goaltenders. I mean, there's a lot to learn. It's not the NHL, but he's not starting in the NHL. And you don't want him or Lack sitting in Utica with some backup here playing 15 games. Let Lack, who's played a lot in the AHL, play the 15 games here and get the feeling of an NHL place while Eriksson plays a ton down there. You don't want one of those two young guys sitting.
The danger I see in that, though, is that in a new division, a competitive division, as we talked about, in the past couple of years, whoever the backup was, whether it was Corey or Roberto, when you went with your backup, you knew you stood a very good chance of winning.
That luxury's gone.
Exactly, and here's Lack coming up. I mean, that was a lost season for him.
But it would have been anyway. It has nothing to do with the Luongo fiasco. If they kept Corey, that would have been
but
gone
anyway. You need a backup that can get you some wins. So whether it's an experienced guy or whether you turn to a youngster, they're going to have to deliver.
But even if you got a veteran guy, is he, quote, a guy who can get you some wins? That's a tough call in this league, when the goaltending means so much. As soon as you slip to a backup, unless you've got Jonathan Bernier or you got Corey Schneider or Roberto Luongo, whichever one you're going to do. I mean, not many teams, they're all kind of hoping and praying when they go with the backup.
Tony Gallagher, The Province, province.com, is sitting in for Donnie. I'm Jeff Patterson in for Barry. We'll get a break in for an update. Lots going on Free Agent Friday around the National Hockey League. Doug McLean of Rogers Sportsnet in about 10 minutes' time. TDM is in the house. We have seen the whites of his eyes. Terry David Mulligan, good rocking this afternoon. We'll get you set for the weekend. We'll do that at 4:30, so half an hour from now. Lots of hockey talk as we move through the program. Ian Mendez of Rogers Sportsnet in Ottawa to talk about the Senators and their busy day. Ian will join us at 5. And Ben Kuzma, Tony's colleague at The Province and theprovince.com. The Coos in at 5:30. Again, we'll get it back to all things Canucks. Brad Richardson, their biggest signing of the day. Not a big name, but a guy that can come in, they think, as you heard Mike say there, play that third-line center role and produce a little bit of offense. Time's going to tell on that one. Update straight ahead, and we'll come back. Doug McLean in about 10 minutes' time here on the Team 1040.